Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 20 of Talkin' Tunes with Dr. Tony. So, today we're going to be continuing our discussion with Professor Danny Howes from Kennesaw State University, and he'll be talking to us about a program that he's involved with at the university and also talk to you about a study abroad that he's done and what type of performing he's been doing lately in terms of some performances around the Atlanta area. So without any delay, let's move on to part two of our interview with Danny Howes. Enjoy it. So, hello, everybody, and it's good to have you back. This is a continuation of my interview with Professor Danny Howes from Kennesaw State. And Danny's going to talk about a couple things that I find fascinating. One has to do with a music program that he's in a leadership role with, and it's really kind of like the business side of music, which is very unusual. You know, there's a lot of people that want to get involved with music. They can't play a lick there, they can't carry a note, but they want to get involved in another way. So this program facilitates their interest. And also, Danny has been doing a new musical venture that I want to hear more about. So I'm just going to turn it over to Danny, and he's going to talk to us for probably the next 25, 30 minutes about both of these topics.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. And thanks again, Tony. This has been a real pleasure. I've been at Kennesaw State University for many years and just geek out and talk about all the fun music stuff that we love. So it's a privilege and an honor to be with you today. So thanks, Tony. MeBus program, and we affectionately call it MeBus, which stands for Music and Entertainment Business Program. The full name is the Joel A. Katz Music and Entertainment Business Program. And we got to give huge props to Joel A. Katz. He's our namesake and benefactor. He's an entertainment attorney. And he started, his first client, interestingly, was James Brown. And that led into Willie Nelson. Probably his most famous artist that he's worked with is Michael Jackson. He was Michael Jackson's attorney. But the list goes on and on. New artists like Cardi B and Justin Timberlake. He's also a main driver behind the Grammy Awards, just a powerhouse. And we couldn't be more grateful that he's sort of our namesake and benefactor here. What the program does, Tony, is it allows students that are interested in the entertainment business. I think a lot of people, when they hear music and entertainment business program, they think you need to be a musician. We are actually very proudly part of the Coles College of Business because we're teaching students the music business, right? That business side. If you are a musician, we of course are here to help and celebrate and kind of help you with that craft. But we're teaching all the what we call non-performing roles that are in the industry: promotion, production, PR, so much that goes behind it, the legal side of the business.
A sideline of this is your visits to the UK. Now, is that part of the MEBIS thing or is that separate?
No, it's all embedded in the MEBA program. We've been leading a London study abroad for the last about 8 years. We did it 6 years in a row. Then the evil COVID came along, and we had to derail for a few years. But we're back going there this year, Tony. You would love it, and so are all students as well. This is a completely immersive look into the global entertainment space based in the UK. We visit all three majors. We visit Houses of Parliament. We go to this amazing place called Tallyard Studios, Tallyard Education. We take a big pilgrimage up to Liverpool and look at all the Beatles haunts and all that, which is incredible. But one of the biggest, coolest things is we've worked on this relationship with Abbey Road Studios, which is, of course, the iconic room where the Beatles have recorded and Pink Floyd, but they are still very active today. I think they have a legacy piece where we always associate Abbey Road with old school stuff, but they're doing soundtracks for like Lord of the Rings and Skyfall and all this stuff. They don't really give tours to the public, but we've developed a relationship with a gentleman, an engineer who was there in the days of the Beatles and Bowie and Cliff Richards and Olivia Newton-John. He worked at Abbey Road for many, many years. His name is Tony Clark. And Tony is just the dearest, sweetest man you could care to meet. And he has sort of helped broker, along with Joel A. Katz, our ability for our students to go inside of Abbey Road, see, look under the hood, see that iconic room for what it is. This is a big part of our program. I love it. And our students always have a life-changing experience when they go.
So when you go over there, do you also have an opportunity to see some of the other seminal music landmarks around London, like um, the what is it called, the Cavern where the Beatles played? Have you been there?
Yes. Yes, of course. I mean, the cavern is right there in the heart of Liverpool, and we go down into the dungeon and we see the halls of where the Beatles kind of got their big celebrated start. And this year, which is really cool, I'm really excited about this. Paul McCartney has sort of helped be an ambassador for this school called LIPA, LIPA, which is the Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts. And actually, when Paul McCartney was very young, both he and John Lennon were involved with the school, and it kind of had gone down. And Paul just really invested in that. And now every year for their graduation, Paul goes to their graduation. This year, which is a new thing for our program this year, we've partnered with LIPA. Our students are going to be able to go in there, do some projects at LIPA, and see the whole facility. So we're excited about that.
I just finished doing a couple of videos on Buddy Holly, and I read, which is by Dave Marsh from Rolling Stone. The biography of this Buddy Holly book is considered the best rock biography of any artist ever. And what happened is this guy from Massachusetts went to Lubbock, Texas in the early 70s, and there was nothing there for Buddy Holly other than his tombstone. The city pretty much didn't even recognized his artistry. And I
Right.
did have a chance to go to Liverpool probably about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was also fairly uh, amazed that there wasn't a lot of Beatle vibe going on in that area. Is it changed when you guys go there?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it has changed a lot in the last 20 years, but I mean, there's huge statues there. I mean, every street corner has got Beatles memorabilia. I mean, they are celebrating that legacy big time. At least they are now. They have something interestingly called the Magical Mystery Tour, these big yellow buses, and they take you around, and you actually get to see all four of the Beatles places where they grew up. And it's really pretty fascinating, Tony, because we have such a mystery and romance that we associate with the Beatles, but they were just four kids from Liverpool that just kind of happened to get together. And you see the humble beginnings of these very small homes and how they met, and it's actually spellbinding and very chilling to see those and to see those in person. It doesn't matter if you're a fan or not; you feel it. It's in the air there.
Yeah, so let's digress for a moment. Let's talk about some of the students that have gone through the MEBA's program in terms of what are they doing now? Have any of them gotten placed in some pretty cool positions in industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are pride ourselves in a very, very high placement rate. Most of our students often get hired directly out of their internships into different positions. We have students who are working in New York, in Nashville, and LA, big positions here. They're working with labels, marketing firms, PR firms. We have people who are working on the production side. So yes, Tony, they're doing super well, and we couldn't be more proud of our alums that come out of MEBUS.
Is there anybody you want to single out that is doing like a specific example?
Well, I don't want to list anybody in particular because then I
Okay,
feel like I was leading people
there you
out,
go.
but please know that it's just like a really robust placement rate.
So here's something so I'm sure you're aware that there was just a recording made of The Weeknd and Drake using AI,
Yeah.
and it sounds like they were together. So what is this something that is being discussed at all in your program, the future
Yes.
of
Big
music?
time. Big time. I mean, the one thing that's really great about the MEBUS program, it is not a rinse and repeat kind of traditional academia thing where we blow off the textbook from 1940 and regurgitate that stuff. We try to stay right on the forefront of what's happening. We have what are called artists in residence. We have two of the members from the Zach Brown Band who are in our program. We recently have added a gentleman by the name of David Ryan Harris, who, please, for your audience, Tony, please look up David Ryan Harris. He is John Mayer's guitarist, but what an amazing artist in his own right, and just incredible. So he's on, part of our program now. We have so many people that are working with us. Brian Calhoun from a product called the Music Business Toolbox. The list goes on and on. But to answer your question, yes, we're right on the forefront of what's happening with the AI stuff. It's a deep debate. You could go really deep with this, and I have a lot of thoughts on it. I still feel like no matter what happens, you will never be able to replace human artistry. Everybody was all in a rage when you could have a drum machine, right? And they thought that drum machines were going to replace drummers. Everybody was all in a rage when we went from tape to the digital world. Oh, it's not going to be the same. And people can do multiple takes. So auto tune. Oh, it doesn't matter if you can sing or not. We have a pretty big BS detector as music fans, Tony. We know when something is real and something is not. When you hear an Adele sing, you're listening to the real deal. When you hear a 14-year-old girl in her bedroom with autotune, you know that that's what it is, right? So yes, I mean, I think it's a little bit of the Wild West with the AI. We have to figure out how to monitor it. But I guarantee you, no matter what happens with that, people will still need human artistry. And that's what we're going to respond to as music fans.
I want to tell a couple stories. One has to do with the drum machine. So I believe the first person ever to use a drum machine was a guy named Shuggie Otis. Have you ever heard of him?
Tell me about him.
So Shuggie Otis was the son of Johnny Otis, who did Willie and the Hand Jive. He was a Greek guy from the 50s that grew up in the black community, married a black woman, basically assumed a black identity, and they had Shuggie. Well, Shuggie played bass on Peaches and Regalia by Frank Zappa. So he was doing a lot of session work, and he did a solo album where he played all the instruments, including a drum machine. And it
Right.
was really, it was critically acclaimed, but didn't sell. And Shuggie is the same age as me. I saw him at the Terminal West a couple of years ago, and the guy is completely messed up. But that album, I think it's called Inspiration something, and it kind of preceded Sly and the Family Stone. There's a song called Raspberry Letter 23 or something that the Brothers Johnson covered.
Mm,
That was Chuggie's song. But I wanted to give you an interesting story that's kind of along the AI lines. I was in Starbucks one day and I heard this Ray Charles song, and I love Ray Charles, and I never heard it. So I went up to the counter, and you may recall that Starbucks used to sell CDs of some
yes.
artists they were promoting. So I bought it, and it was called Ray Sings Bassy Swings. And what the recording was, somebody bought the whole Ray Charles collection after he died, and they were going through a warehouse, and they found these boxes of reel-to-reel tapes, and one said Count Basie, Ray Charles, and the guy thought it was the two of them playing together, which nobody ever knew they did. But it wasn't that; it was two separate concerts. And the Ray Charles concert, his voice, I guess, was mic'd right into the mixing board, and it was really clear, but
Right.
the instrumentation was awful. So what they did is they got the current, at that time, incarnation of the Count Basie band. Count Basie had been dead for a long time. They played along to
Yeah.
the bad soundtrack of the Ray Charles recording, and they mixed Ray Charles's voice in with the live Count Basie orchestra, and it sounded like they were just playing together, and it's amazing. So,
Wow. Yeah.
example of something, it was kind of like the Natalie Cole thing that she did with her dad.
I remember that. Yeah.
So anyway, all right. Well, look, why don't we move on and talk about what you're doing now with your acoustic duo thing? Because that sounds really interesting.
Yeah. I've loved playing all my life, and you always want to find a way to continue to play and be engaged. And I am so passionate, Tony, about what I do here at the MeBus program. So that is a quote unquote full time job, and I love everything I do. want to stay really involved with playing as well. With the MeBus program, we have something called our MeBus Mixer, and this is incredible. It allows students who are performers in our program to perform. And you mentioned Mad Life Stage and Studios earlier, and this is where we do our mixer. And what's great about it is I'm able to help arrange and work with the artist on their musicianship and their performance skills. So there's that on the music side, but on the production side, as you know, Mad Life also has a full 4K video setup at their facility. So we have students running the cameras. We have people recording it onto the 24 track Pro Tools in their studio, doing live, doing the pre stuff. So it's an all encompassing event, almost like a, Grammy Awards kind of things that our students are involved with. So I do get to play and be involved with that, and I love that. But about 8 months ago, I wanted to start an acoustic duo. I always love playing acoustically. Believe me, I can rock out. I mean, I love, some electric guitar, but there's something about an acoustic guitar that I like. There's an artist I want to quickly mention that your listeners should check out, as a gentleman by the name of Tommy Emmanuel, who mainly plays acoustic. And his whole thing is he incorporates the whole feeling of the song in his playing. I want to highlight this because I think it's super important. If you play a piano, it's not that difficult, even from a beginning stage, to kind of incorporate sort of a rhythm and the melody in there. But with guitar, that's actually a pretty advanced thing. You're either strumming kind of like what we call cowboy chords and somebody's singing, or you're playing individual notes like a solo, but then the rhythm is gone and there's something that's missing. So I take it as a challenge, because I love to do this, is to create an arrangement on an acoustic guitar that you feel the propulsion of the chords, but there's also the other elements in there that would be in there to support it. Like, for instance, I took that Kate Bush song, Running Up That Hill, that had a big rebirth. And so I've got it in there. I've got an interesting tuning with a drop D and a capo and all this stuff with a delay, so that the whole thing is included in there. So I love doing that. I partnered with an alum. Her name is Olivia McGill, and she went through the MeBus program. That's where I met her, and I've been playing various things with her for over, probably 8 to 10 years. And she's got a brilliant voice. It's very warm. She can rock out like a Steven Tyler kind of a thing, or she can be real mellow and jazzy like a Patsy Cline. So it's a real joy to play with her. And what we're doing, it's kind of neat. We're sort of honoring decades, Tony. We're saying that, we can play songs from any decade, and we start with the 1950s all the way through today. So our little moniker is, we're said that we are Sinatra to Sergeant Pepper's, let me say that again. So our monikers, we are Sinatra to Sergeant Pepper's, and ABBA to Eilish. And of course, Eilish would be Billie Eilish. So we're trying to cover all of it and do it in these really cool arrangement ideas. The name of the band is called Posh Polloi. There's a term you may be familiar with, Tony, called hoi polloi, which means sort of like the general masses. And so this is sort of a play on that, which is called Posh Polloi. We have a little bit of a kind of a Peaky Blinders aesthetic. We love the 1940s and that kind of, and 30s and 20s, actually more of a 1920s thing. And we play up on all that. We have some show where we have sort of a residency right now at a hotel called the Le Meridian, which is over by Perimeter Mall. We go in there and do all these songs we're talking about. And we're also playing at this thing called Marietta Days, which is coming up in Marietta Square. So lots of chances to do that.
How many nights do you play at the hotel?
I missed that, Tony. Say it again.
How many nights do you play at the hotel?
We play usually on Thursday nights. And so, if anybody's interested in following us, we're, on Instagram at Posh Polloi, and you can follow us there. And I would love to meet any of your fans. Interestingly, I think the demographic for people who really enjoy what we do is people who kind of grew up on music like you and I did. It's lots of generations. We'll play a Sinatra song and you'll hear that. And the next thing you know, we're playing a Blondie song or something that you would never expect.
You
And
mi-
maybe
you mix it up then at the show. You don't just stick with one era. You like time travel.
Yeah, we time travel. I like that. I think I'm going to use that, Tony. Very well put. Sometimes we do a little shtick where we'll just ask somebody in the audience to say, you pick a decade and we'll pick the song, So let's say 90s, and then we'll do like, a Crowded House song or whatever it is, and it'll be fun.
I love Crowded House, because to me, if Squeeze ever loses Glenn Tilbrook, well, Neil Finn could come in because their voices are very similar. Glenn Tilbrook is my favorite vocalist of all time. He's
Yeah,
fantastic.
incredible. Beautiful. Just that pure sort of just beautiful pop voice. Completely agree.
great guitar player. You know, I've seen him solo a couple times, and he plays Voodoo Child on an acoustic guitar, and he does a really good job. So I wanted to wrap up by asking you a question, put you on the spot just for
Okay,
fun.
I'm ready. Do it.
So in your mind, now, you there need this question has a dichotomy. This band is as good in the studio as they're not good live. So in your mind, who is the greatest studio band that you don't want to see live because it will really ruin your image? Who would you say?
Well, I think some of the ones that you touched on earlier, like Bob Dylan is a bit that way. I think that I've seen Willie Nelson, and I'm kind of a Willie Nelson fan, but I'm not a fan of him live, but on record, he's amazing. Um, I think there is a pretty high bar now where a lot of artists are really achieving their craft. I've
Yeah,
seen some like bands recently, like The Fix, the 80s band The Fix, killed it. Absolutely awesome. I do have to give a shout out to a new band that I'm into, if that's cool, Tony. This band called Karong Ben. And they are a three-piece, pretty much instrumental band. They occasionally have vocals, and everything about it sounds like it would not be successful, meaning instrumental, three-piece, but it is just amazing, and it's just so well done. They've collaborated with huge artists, like they've collaborated with Paul McCartney, and it's a really cool thing. The guitarist Mark Spear, as far as guitar players, so good, so good. I think that you would really enjoy that. And as far as a live band,
yeah,
incredible.
they're good. So another way of asking my question. So there's this store in Buckhead called Hi-Fi Buys.
Yeah,
Have you been in there?
yeah, I know exactly where it is. It's been there forever.
Well, yes and no. The one that was there went out of business, and I guess these guys were over in they were over in Decatur or someplace, and then they went over and they moved in. I went in there one day to get a basic setup with a speakers, an amp, and a turntable or CD player. You could spend 100 grand on that basic system. So
Oh,
my
I know.
question is, if you wanted to go in there and audition that system, what band would you want to hear to really put that system through its paces?
Without a hesitancy, Steely Dan.
Okay,
Um,
that's the answer. That's it. I agree. To me, they're the quintessential studio band, but live, no.
oh, is that what you were setting me up for? You wanted me to lead me that? And the song you got to use is Babylon Sisters.
That was good, really, really good. Or you could even play Asia, the song
Yeah.
Asia. But
Well,
anyway, look, I think that we've exhausted our viewers' attention span.
probably long ago, Tony.
I did a deep dive on a Frank Zappa album with a couple other guys, and we were on for 80 minutes talking about one Frank Zappa album.
Yeah.
Now we got a lot of views, but those views may have only lasted like 1 minute.
Yeah.
But I wanted to thank you again, Danny, for
Thank you.
to uh to talk with me. It was really enjoyable, and unfortunately, I got to get back to my drudgery of I'm revising a course that I'm taking material from like 6 different sources, and I'm an integrator. I'm just synthesizing all this stuff, and it's pretty mentally taxing. I'm about halfway through. I got to finish by tomorrow, but this was a
Sounds terrible.
nice break in that. So I definitely will. I'm going to come check you guys out on Thursday night because that's within striking distance for me, and I
Great.
think it'll be a lot of fun.
I love it.
All right, well, look, I'll talk with you soon, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. And thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you.